Today I am doing another soft spoken video, except this time I am going to be talking about some of the books that have changed my life in one way or another. And I am also going to try to feature book triggers much more in this video, because I was kind of lacking last time. I was kind of lacking. I also will probably be whispering a bit as well, because for some reason my soft spoken voice is not doing what it's supposed to today. So I am going to do a mixture of both, okay? So let's begin. Let's begin. Let's begin. Now, this first book, if there's any piece of literature that has shifted paradigms and restructured societies at large, it's this one. And that book is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Now, I'm joking, or at least partly joking, because I feel like these books, this series, really, really helped me, and I imagine it helped many others get into reading books as a kid. So, holding this feels very, very nostalgic. It feels like I'm holding a piece of my childhood. And in fact, I quite literally am, because there may or may not be a booger on the inside pages of this book, which I will be showing you for obvious reasons, but if that doesn't scream boyhood to you, I don't know what does. I don't know what does. So, shout out to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. But let's get into the real books. The first book I have is How to Break Up with Your Phone. How to break up with your phone. Now, technically, this is the first ever self-help book I read. I had to read it for a class in college, and at the time I didn't really expect it to have an impact on me. A small but lasting impact, because honestly, I don't remember much of the book. The only thing I remember is that this was the first time that I became fully aware of how much time I was spending on my phone. there's a part in the book where the author asks you to calculate your total screen time for the year. And I can't remember what my total was. All I needed to know was that it was thousands of hours. Thousands of hours spent on my phone each year. And that was enough to spark some serious reflection on my relationship with my phone. I changed my habits almost immediately after reading this book, and I quickly discovered that I suddenly had so much time to do the things that I always thought I didn't have time for, like working out and reading. I thought I didn't have time to work out or read, but I did. So, if any of that resonates with you, maybe consider checking out this book. It has a lot of tips and insights on phone use and how to build a better relationship with your phone. Okay. This next book may be familiar if you saw my favorite books video. It is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. I will try not to repeat myself too much, but this book has had a tremendous impact on me, especially in terms of loving myself and others unconditionally. Honestly, I could probably make an entire video on this book, but if I could summarize what I learned from it when I first read it, I would say that it really made me aware of how much negativity I was internalizing and how that negativity was limiting me in basically all aspects of my life. I remember I was really struggling with social anxiety and self-consciousness around the first time I read this. And this book really helped me deconstruct and reframe many of those fears that I was harboring inside me, like fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of being seen, etc., etc. And once I started to show more compassion for myself by letting go of these fears, I started having more compassion for others. And that has really changed the way I go through life now. So, if any of that speaks to you, maybe consider checking out this book. Marianne swear, every single sentence is like a nugget of wisdom. It's so, so good. But that is the third book. The next book has a lot of common themes with the last book, but this one is more scientific in nature, whereas A Return to Love is more spiritual. A Return to Love is more spiritual. This book is Cybernetics, and I know what you may be thinking. That book looks incredibly boring. And you're right, this cover does not do this book justice whatsoever. This is not a great cover, in my opinion, but don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to judge. This book is by Maxwell Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon who realized that cosmetic procedures on their own are not enough to fix someone's self-image. I'm sure we've all heard of people who chase procedure after procedure and are just never satisfied. Well, that's what this book is about. This idea that the mind is incredibly, incredibly powerful, and our beliefs determine what we can and can't do. So this book was really important in helping me see that my beliefs were hurting my self-image. I quickly realized that so many of the things I told myself I couldn't do were really just things that I didn't allow myself to do. You know, you will never know whether you can or can't do something unless you try. So, why not try? Why not try? You already believe that you can't, so why not allow yourself to be surprised? That's sort of my thought process. Now, after reading this book, whenever I think that I can't do something, I try to evaluate why I think that, and most of the time, it's just irrational thinking and assumptions. Another thing that really, really spoke to me was the author's perspective on forgiveness. I've memorized where it is in this book based on my tabs because I refer to it so often, but I have it written down. He says, true forgiveness comes only when we are able to see and emotionally accept that there is and was nothing for us to forgive. We should not have condemned or hated the other person in the first place. We should have not condemned or hated the other person in this sentence, or these two sentences alone, have had such a huge impact on my interpersonal relationships, my social relationships, and also my intrapersonal relationship, my relationship with myself. I've realized that my mental health is best when I show myself grace and when I can extend that grace to others in my life as well. Even people who are leaving my life, or people who I don't want in my life. So if you identify with any of that, maybe check out this book. Don't let the very uninteresting cover discourage you. Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Okay. Now, on the topic of forgiveness, the next book is very, very related. It is Letting Go, the Pathway of Surrender. As the title suggests, this book is about letting go. Letting go of judgment, blame, fear, anger, and other things that block us from experiencing happiness, love, success, and health. And aside from the overlap with the last two books, I think what really stood out to me was the emphasis on letting go of control and viewing events and people with as much neutrality as you can. And by that, I mean avoiding labels like good and bad, because they set expectations, and that's exactly what we, or at least I, am trying to avoid. And letting go of those expectations, in my opinion, helps us accept things as they are and not as we want them to be. So, yes, this book really, really helped me, especially when I was holding on to resentments and other forms of negativity. And if you are experiencing or have ever experienced that, maybe check this book out. Letting go. Letting go. Letting go. Now, this last book I mentioned very, very briefly in my favorite books video, but I thought I would give it some more love since it played a very, very pivotal role in the creation of this channel. This book is The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This book is structured like a course. So you read a chapter every week and you do some exercises as you work through the mental blocks that are preventing you from accessing your creativity. As it says here, a spiritual path to higher creativity. And the book does what it says it's supposed to do, for me at least. It really helped me break down the mental obstacles that were preventing me from creating. I felt super paralyzed creatively for a very, very long time. And the author's wisdom is great. It is very, very great and powerful. But I think what really had the most impact on me were the morning pages. Now, morning pages are basically an intensive journaling practice that you do every single morning as part of this course. Morning pages entails 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing on US letter or A4 size paper. So just your standard lined or printer paper. It's basically like writing 500 to 750 words every morning for 12 weeks. 500 to 750 words every morning for 12 weeks. That was a lot. It was hard, especially at first, but eventually it became very, very cathartic. Once I got into the flow of writing whatever was on my mind, the most unexpected things would surface. And the next thing I know, I'm mentally unpacking things that I thought I had dealt with, but really they were just suppressed deep, deep in my subconscious. A lot of these things, they weren't even related directly to creativity, but they were still taking up space in my mind, you know? So in one way or another, they were preventing me from accessing my creativity and allowing myself to express it. But now, here I am, sharing my creativity with you all, and I couldn't be more grateful for this book. And I think everyone has an inner artist. Everyone is creative in their own way. So, if you've ever had a creative interest or a creative project that you've wanted to do, but you haven't done for whatever reason, I would highly recommend checking this book out. I think even the habit of journaling intensively every single day, whether you think you're creative or not, that alone, I think, would have an impact on anyone. So, yes, The Artist's Way, Julia Gilbert. is all I have for today. I do just want to say that I can't emphasize enough how much happiness and peace and love that these books have helped bring into my life. So if any of the things I said resonated with you today, definitely consider checking out these books. If nothing resonated with you, I hope that you were at least able to relax. Okay? Well, thank you for listening.